Hello, thank you for coming in this evening. My name is Rebecca Valera. I am going to be joined by a guest today. It's not just going to be me on today's live stream. We're focusing in on, is moving from California to Texas a big mistake? Or are there some valid reasons why people are relocating from California to Texas? So today our guest he made the move from California to Texas. And I'll let him introduce himself and we'll continue from there.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. My name is Steve. Steve Feldman. I'm a realtor like Rebecca is as well. And I am also a YouTuber as Rebecca is as well. I have a channel called Steve's POV. That's Steve's Point of View on YouTube. And it's currently approaching 600,000 subscribers. And I moved to Texas almost exactly 3 years ago. In fact, I bought the house that I'm sitting in right now exactly 3 years ago, I would say, and then moved here on September 11th of 2020. So right about at the 3-year anniversary of moving to Texas.
Well, happy almost 3-year anniversary.
Thank you. It's a good one. It's a very good one. And well, I'm sure you're going to ask lots of questions, but we are very here in Texas. I will just start with that. Yes.
All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about an article that I found. It was written by ABC news company out of I think they're out of San Diego. So we're gonna kind of go through the article. In the article, Steve, and this is kind of what relates to your story as well, is that they interviewed people from California that had relocated here to Texas from different parts. So I think a majority were here in North Dallas, and then some were in some other parts of Texas. So we're going to kind of take a look at some of their stories and then kind of compare it to what you went through and what you experienced, and if it was similar, different, and just kind of go through there. And then at the very end, you want to watch because we're going to go through some of the juicy comments. This is probably my most watched live stream playback from the last time Steve and I got together. So you definitely want to stay to the end because we're going to take a look at all the juicy comments and we're going to be commenting on that juice. So yeah, they're going to be really juicy.
All right, I'm ready for it.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. So the focus of this, so it was 7 News, ABC, San Francisco. So that's where it was out of. And they kind of focused on a shrinking California, waves of companies relocating to Texas, the idea of California exodus gained momentum over the years, but is it true? And they've put together a lot of really great statistics for this. So I'm excited to share it with everyone. And we're going to also be talking about the grass being greener on the other side. So is it really greener here in Texas as opposed to California? And everyone has a reason for why they left. And so we're going to kind of go in on their stories. So here's some facts so that people understand where we're coming from. So between April 2020, so that's right around, you left in September of 2020, and July 2022, this is the data that they've collected, California's population dropped by more than 500,000 people. So that's a lot of people. According to the latest population estimates from the Census Bureau, this is the first instance of population loss for the Golden State in 170 years. The newly released data from the California Department of Finance shows the state lost about 138,400 people of the population in 2022, which is a 30.35% decline. Other states, of the other 58 states, 46 decreased in population last year. So we're talking, there's a lot of people moving around, not just people leaving California for Texas, but just a lot of people moving over the last year.
I think you misread that, Rebecca. Counties of the states of California.
Counties, sorry.
Of the states, counties, 58 counties. 46 decreased population. So
yeah, I'd be curious to know which counties did not make that decrease. And you may have some insight. This is a smaller
I think I have.
percentage than the population drop in 2021, mainly due to the large increase in foreign immigration, which nearly tripled from 21 to 22. So this was interesting to me. It says Texas is the top state Californians are moving to. And if you look, let's see, we've got a steady flow of Californians leaving for Texas outpaced the reverse flow of Texans moving to California by 2 to 1. And this is notable during the 2018 and 2019 spike. So we have 63,000 people moving from California to Texas in 2017. And there's a big jump in 2018 of 86,000 people compared to those that are going the other way, right? The reverse flow from Texas back to California or Texas to California. So it was interesting that there's always been this relationship too, and that's kind of what the article points out. But during the pandemic, the migration accelerated too. So even more. So we had that big jump in that 2017 to 2019, but then it jumped even further, that 2020 to 2022. So, and you can see by the graph here, the people who moved to Texas per state this is just 2019, a lot more from California. I'm surprised to see Florida on the list. But I do know there are a lot of people that are moving back and forth between Texas and Florida as well. Chicago doesn't surprise me because I've gotten phone calls from people in Chicago, Colorado, some of these other states. Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, I can kind of see because I do have family in Oklahoma, New York, not as much. And then we've got Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, all relocating to Texas. And then we've got Louisiana as well. So why are people moving? So here are the families that they interviewed. They interviewed about 7 families or single persons that took the move from California to Texas. So this is Marie Bailey. She and her husband moved their family from El Seguino after realizing Texas aligned more closely with their political beliefs. As a real estate agent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, she closed 300 homes, with most of her clients being, so I'm guessing she relocated and then also became an agent in Dallas. And she started the Facebook group, Moved to Texas. I don't know if she relocated. Did she say, yeah. Is I can't even say it.
El Segundo.
El Segundo, thank you. Where in California is that?
Los Angeles.
Okay, so close to LA. So it looks like she relocated and then did something similar to what you did. Is she's helping? Are you helping families relocate as well?
Yes.
Okay. And are those just a lot of people that you've known from where you were living? Let's start here. Steve, where did you relocate from in California?
My last home was in Southern California, in the suburb of Los Angeles, in an area called Simi Valley, California, is where I lived. My last place I lived in California before moving here.
And then how long were you there in California?
I moved to California in 1999. So we stayed in California for 20 years, almost exactly. My son was born there, and at around 20 years old is when so pretty much 20 years exactly, 99 to 2020.
Oh, okay. So 99 to 2020.
21 years.
21 years. Wow.
Yep.
So you have some experience living there. She talks about her reason for moving was more of the political aspect, is why she decided to change. What were some of the reasons that you decided to move to Texas from California?
So before getting to politics, because I try to avoid that whenever possible, but there's plenty of other reasons why I think we made the decisions outside of politics as well. I mean, politics was a reason perhaps, but I think more of the reasons initially outside of politics were and perhaps they all play into politics, but I mean, the cost of living,
Okay.
the taxes, particularly for us was crime. Crime started really, really getting out of control and out of hand. It was always started getting worse and worse. Homelessness, drug addicts, panhandlers, things that where you started to see now. I mean, in nice neighborhoods, home robberies, home invasion robberies, petty theft, petty crimes, campers parked in parking lot, where you work out, people living out of these things, people panhandling, people walking around like zombies. There was a lot of that. And it's really unfortunate because, when we moved to California in 2020, there wasn't anything like that. It was a dream of a place. As somebody from the East Coast, from New Jersey, who as a kid went to California a couple times to visit relatives, it was like going to paradise, right? I mean, always these blue skies with no clouds, and this heat with no humidity, and these mountains and the ocean, and skiing and lakes and jet skiing and classic cars, and Mel's Diners and car stuff. Like, forever, this was people, when I moved to California in 1999, would park their Ferraris with the keys in the ignition and the top down at the movie theater to go to the movies. It wasn't, that was what the Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks area and some of those areas that I lived in were like at that time. That's not exaggerating it. But in 20 years, the cost of living I remember too, because I moved from Japan after living there for close to 6 years to California. I'm originally from New Jersey. I went to school in Wisconsin. So I saw the East Coast, saw the Midwest, and now traveled a lot from Japan to California. And that's where I fell in love with the place that I decided was going to be where, my wife and I would relocate, and our son would be born there and grow up there. But things changed very quickly, not thereafter. I mean, it was paradise. And then even, our son, when he started going to school, we had concerns about schools, public schools, and what they were teaching, what was being taught. We made a decision at that time to send him to private school. A lot of people think you spend money on private school. Thankfully we had the money to do that, but man, it's expensive. It was really expensive. And then again, what you're paying for always maybe is not exactly what you think you're getting, because you're paying to send your kid to a private school. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting something necessarily better than maybe what was at public school, or possibly now you're just paying for something that could be worse, because now you're surrounded by a bunch of, real rich kids who had money, with parents who, I don't know, it was a weird situation. But, you're paying a lot of taxes to live. You're paying a lot of cost to live there and everything else. And we felt that public schools weren't adequate for our son. We decided that private school was going to be a better choice for him. That was an expensive choice. The house values, I got to say, as a realtor, and as somebody who bought houses, probably 3 or 4 houses in California, moved ourselves. Yeah, it was a great roll of homes and this bubble that blew up, and we were able to benefit from that up until 2005, where we bought our last home in Simi Valley. Yeah, and then the crash came, and in a place like California, where everything goes up so fast, it certainly comes down real fast. Yeah. So a lot of things did not recover from that crash of the real estate market in time. Things really slowed down, and things changed a lot. A lot of migration, a lot of people coming to California, a lot of illegal immigration into California, a lot of laws that started changing about, and restrictions that started coming for the car community. Somebody like myself who loved cars, getting cars smogged in California, getting cars, a carbureted car that was after 1975, to get it registered properly in California became a hassle, a nightmare. It forced you to have to look for alternative means or underground means of getting something done to drive a car in a state that was making it very blatant to car lovers that you're not going to last here, because, if you like the internal combustion engine, it's not going to be happening here in California. California like to lead the ways in lots of things, and whether it be down these crazy routes or, progressive routes, or, great routes of technology, but it changed just so fast. And so for us, again, I know it became a long explanation here, but crime, cost of living, taxes, cost of gasoline, the
Mhm.
cost of everything, and the future of the state did not seem like it was going in a good direction. It seemed like it's been sliding and sliding quickly and rapidly down a very bad road. And we thankfully did not have ties to the sense that I was born and raised there, that we had family roots there that made it difficult to go. It wasn't
Yeah.
difficult to go. Our son had already gone to school somewhere else out of and we were like one day, you know what, we think we've had enough of this. Let's get up. I'm a realtor. We could sell our house. Let's go look at Texas and explore. And if we don't like Texas, then we'll go look at Florida, which
Yeah.
was the next choice, and other
Okay.
place, and Tennessee.
Tennessee.
And this is like that, where I think most Californians who are moving are going to, whether it's one of those three, I'd say. Or, I mean, no, maybe Nevada and Utah too. I know a lot of Californians went to Utah, but
Yeah.
we knew it was time to go, and we those were some of the reasons behind it, and politics play into a lot of those reasons, I think, as well. So is politics at the base of it? Perhaps it's a large factor, even, you know, whether we recognize it or not.
Yeah. All right, let's see who else is kind of on this. So she was a realtor as well. She relocated her family very similarly. Then we've got Jennifer Balick. She moved her family to Rockwall, which is just on the east side of North Dallas. She said the biggest reason for her move was that the government lockdowns in California, they were
Yeah.
so strict for so
Yeah.
long. And the school situation for the kids was not what we wanted to be, and not what they deserved. Also, the financial situation in California, it's so expensive to raise your family here. So you can kind of, I'm sure you can echo her. I can't imagine living in California and living through the lockdowns. That would just be, geez.
Well, that was certainly, I didn't mention it, but yeah, I mean, we're talking about the same time period where, you know, people were outside masked up, and I mean, it was crazy. Stores were closed down. People were riding bicycles with masks. I mean, it was, from my opinion at the time, it was so many things were locked down. So many businesses were put through the ringer. There was people sitting at home. Kids were not at
Yeah.
school. It was a nightmare. And you know, if you're living there, maybe you didn't understand. You thought that every place was like that. But then when you flew to a place like Texas, who did have, of course, some restrictions and other stuff too, but
Yeah.
there was nothing like what we were living through there at the time. And it to me, it became very burdensome, like similar to what she said. It was,
Mhm.
you know, somebody started to question, what are we being put through, you know, here with
Yeah.
this, and we have to live like this and through this situation. And that was, yeah, another great reason that she highlights.
Let's look at Kelly. So Kelly, her family, I remember her story. I know her family was affected by the forest fires. But let me start with her. So she stayed in California forever. I thought I would die in my house, like I was never going to leave. Strict restrictions during the pandemic and the unsuccessful recall of Governor Gavin Newsom were key reasons for her decision to move from Sonoma County to Katy, Texas. So she moved closer to Houston. For those of you that aren't
Yeah.
familiar with Texas,
Yep.
she also said wildfires took a toll on her mental and physical health. I really wanted to be in a place that offers a lot more freedom, where they treat their citizens like adults who can make their own good decisions. And I want to say, we'll go into her story a little bit further, but some of the forest fire stuff was just really heartbreaking for her. Did you know anyone that was affected by forest fires and that type of thing when you were living in California? Were you affected in any way by?
Yeah, we were affected by fires. Fires are part of life in, at least in, well, a lot of California, certainly where we lived in Southern California, in Simi Valley and Thousand Oaks, and all around that area of Los Angeles. I mean, yeah, fires, when they start, you need to be quite aware of what's going on, of wind shifts, of embers, of things flying around. You could be miles away, and hot embers can fly, and, you know, and hit your roof and ignite your property too. It's a scary situation. It's a really we talked about some of these different things. I mean, we have natural disasters in Texas too here.
Yeah.
I've become familiar with since we've been here, but wildfires are a really, really scary phenomenon, as are earthquakes and as are huge wind events that happen in California as well too. But earthquakes and wildfires would be two of the bigger ones, and wildfires are a scary situation because
anytime middle of the night, it's just, you're unaware.
You're unaware. You don't know. I mean, one shift of wind, it shifts, and next thing you know, you're in the line of a fire you didn't even think you were part of. So it's very scary. So dry, it's so hot, and you get these winds that are so dry in certain parts of the year, the Santa Ana winds, and they just drive fires. Plus, there's an argument too. Gavin Newsom came up in the thing there, but I don't think it's only a Gavin Newsom issue. But for years and years, there's an argument that California has neglected the maintenance of the national forests and the underbrush and some of these other things in these forests that were not well maintained, which have led to bigger and bigger fires. I'm sure there's people who will present other reasons, climate change and other things too. Maybe it's a combination of things, but it's certainly a dangerous situation in Southern California. And I did have friends and people that I knew that were affected, not enough to where they moved out of state to Texas because of it, but they certainly lost homes. They lost trailer homes. They lost a lot of stuff because of fires.
Yeah, and I can't imagine. I really, that to me is scary. I mean, especially if you have kids even. I mean, you're just.
Yeah, it can happen so fast, and you just don't know. It's a scary, natural, not always natural too, because like a tornado, I mean, tornado nature, Mother Nature has it, but somebody maliciously, and obviously that has happened too, so lights fires, arson around, and there's people, if with bad intentions, that if they wanted to really screw up California in a bad way, if somebody on a terroristic nature decided to light fires all around the Southland in a number of different forests and places, I mean, you could have a absolutely devastating, nonstop, unstoppable night happen in a place like that.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So the next family is Simon and Bridget Black. They were fed up with the high cost of living and drawn to the promise of an environment more accepting to their conservative values. They moved their family from the Bay Area to McKinney, Texas, which is where we are, yay, in June of 2021. It seems that the environment politically in California has just been a one-party rule. Democrats seem to have completely overruled the state, said Simon. So looks like politics and cost of living for that family. Juan Pablo Cruz, this one was, I believe, a restaurant owner. He was frustrated by the red tape involvement in running his taco truck in Paris, California. Ultimately, he decided to move to San Antonio in May of 22 due to the high cost of living, plus the cost of running his business while dealing with the bureaucratic regulations. My commissary, thank you. My commissary in California was $1,250 a month. This is for a food truck. His food truck, I'm sure that he owned. That's a location where we will store our trailer overnight. It's a location that's approved by the state to be able to store your trailer here. Here in Texas, my commissary was $360. Dang.
Commissary, yes.
Commissary,
I mean, and I bet you if you asked Mr. Cruz how much it cost to fill up his truck with gas or diesel, and then to go out there and what his permits and what the red tape was that he had to go through on top of even just the cost of his commissary, I'm sure his overall plus his business taxes. So he moved to Texas. Now he doesn't have, corporate or any business tax on that. He doesn't have the income tax on it. So, I mean, his savings are overall tremendous. Plus, if he registered that truck in California, as he was required to do, the cost of the registration, the weight fees, this fee, that fee, and every other fee that he had to pay on that thing probably cost him hundreds of dollars a year, where in Texas, I'm guessing if he's like everybody else, it's $75 to $100 a year
Yep.
for the registration of his truck,
Yeah.
and he's covered. So he saved himself not only almost $1,000 a month on his storage fees,
Correct.
but I mean, I can imagine he found savings of thousands and thousands of dollars a month, plus his housing and everything else by moving his business to Texas. And I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, and I think also too, San Antonio is one of the more affordable metro areas to relocate as well. Of the big ones, like Houston and San Antonio are probably the two most affordable. Austin's the most expensive but most desirable, and then Dallas kind of falls there. But San Antonio's high on the list mainly because of affordability, and I think it's also in the hill country too, and it's just beautiful over there in that part of Texas. All right, so we've got William or Bill Fulton. He served as the mayor of Ventura, California from 2009 to 2011 and was previously the director of planning and economic development for the city of San Diego. He married a Texan and moved to Houston in 2014. If you define the American dream as living in a big house and on a big lot, yes, it's easier to live in Texas, but California is still a great place for people to pursue their dreams, depending on what they're looking for, Fulton said. Do you agree with that statement?
California is a beautiful place. I mean, there's no question about it. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. There's wonderful people in California, a lot of them, a lot more than good people than bad people for sure. But yeah, so I do agree with what he's saying for sure. I just, you know, and I'm sure there's dreams that people have. I've met some people here who've had, you know, these California dreams of things that they could only do out there in that place. And I understand it. I mean, that was I mean, it was a dream place. And I still think that dream exists. Perhaps I just getting afraid that the dream is disappearing and is not quite as attractive as it once was. So yes, I'm sure it's still there, but seems to me to be dwindling a bit.
Yeah. And then this one, this story, so we've got Bob Kim. His family's businesses were destroyed in the LA riots in the 1990s. He cites safety as the reason he and his wife moved from the Bay Area to Denton. So Denton is like northwest Dallas. In June of 21, my parents, lost their American dream in just 2 days. Despite all this, we stayed. He went on to say, I did not want to be like my mom in a few decades, sitting at a table yet again, reliving another LA riot in my own backyard and having that anger and sense of utter hopelessness that I saw in her blank eyes. So crime was a big reason why, and also the rioting and those businesses that were destroyed as a result. When you were there, did you have to deal or see any of those things happening?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, there were riots and there were things that were going on. There were people putting bricks out, coordinated efforts to break windows and destroy property on Ventura Boulevard and Woodland Hills and on Melrose, where there's shops, where there's people who put their life. Mr. Kim, I'm assuming he's Korean. His mother, they came here, they opened up a store, they took all the risk of coming, immigrating to the country, spending all of their money, going into a risky area to begin with. Most like this is a story you hear a lot. They put a store, a supermarket, a liquor store, whatever, convenience store into an area that is already crime-ridden or dangerous to begin with. And then riots start. And then their shop is destroyed. Everything they worked for, everything that the mom woke up every morning and worked all nights to all hours of the night gets destroyed. He sees that from his mom and says, why the heck would I want to keep doing it? Why do we have to do it here? Why should we do it here? We can go to a place that's safer, where we can protect ourselves more easily. And doing so many Korean families, hard-working Koreans who moved to LA because everybody was in LA. That's the place to be. Japanese, Korean, it didn't matter. I mean, if you're coming to America, LA was the place to be. And you build, and then it gets taken away in 1 or 2 nights, destroyed, looted, robbed, you know, and then you see flashes of that again over the last few years, you know, gangs and groups of kids running into a store. not even covering their face and just taking stuff, because the laws now say that you could take up to $900 worth of stuff and you won't even be prosecuted.
That's just crazy.
You know,
Was it
right? You
like
think it sounds
Walgreens?
ridiculous. I tell Jeff that I work with, Walgreens, Hermes. I mean, look at San Francisco. We had the guy right from San Francisco before. Why would you want to stay in San Francisco? All the most beautiful stores, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, you know, Chanel, they don't exist, a lot of these stores anymore in San Francisco, because Apple stores, because people just walk in and grab whatever they want and walk out. And because employees there are told, don't even engage people, just let them take what they want. There's no penalty for the crime. So I think when Mr. Kim saw his poor mom, you know, suffer through that and think, you know, now what do we do for our family to survive?
Yeah.
I can understand his feeling. I really can, especially as a business owner, somebody worked his ass off, his family, waking up and doing that every day. To have that happen is really, really discouraging. And I really can relate to his frustration. And I hope what his move to Denton too, for whatever business he did, I'm sure, you know, a lot of Korean people are very, very aggressive and very, you know, business minded and oriented. I hope that that was a really good move for him and his family. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. All right. Let's see. All right. So we've got, during the last decade, property crime was almost always higher in Texas than California. According to FBI data, the 2020 rate of property crime per 1,000 people was about 2,139 in California and 2,245 in Texas. Over the last decade, Texas almost consistently had a higher rate of property crime than California, which I'm not sure where they're pulling some of that data or those numbers, because to me it seems like the more or less the opposite is actually true. And then we've got violent crime also too, with Texas being higher per so many people. So I'm not sure if they're
I don't know about some of these statistics. They don't. If I had to just go off of gut feeling, they don't seem correct. But I mean, you know, perhaps they are. I don't feel that way. I feel here in Texas, I mean, people are very aware of protecting themselves and protecting their family. People are armed. People carry weapons on their person, in their car, around them.
Right. You're less likely to get robbed if you've got a gun on you than the other way around. You know, somebody's less likely to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go jump this person. Oh wait, if they don't have a firearm, we're going to do it more frequently.
Well, yeah, of course. I think in Texas, you're going to think, if you have half a brain as a criminal, you're probably going to think, well, I mean, do I want to take on do I want to take on somebody who's possibly, you know, going to shoot me, or do I want to take on people who I know are don't have the ability to protect themselves?
Correct.
So I'm a bit surprised by that. But then again, and then seeing maybe, I don't know what's considered a crime. You know, we're talking about, look, in California, if you could steal $900 worth of stuff, well, okay, that's not a violent crime, but then invasion robbery.
I think maybe, I wonder if that's what it is.
Property crimes, people break.
Yeah, I wonder if they're
the definition.
Exactly. I think it's the answers in the definition of how they're defining it. And, you know, maybe it's not a crime anymore to take less than, like you said, $1,000 worth of someone's stuff. And it could be, I don't know how they're,
perhaps
classifying it.
I'm only guessing, because my gut feeling is, from what I see in walking through malls and looking in places and everything else, that California certainly seems to have more crime, property crime and violent crime from my perspective than it exists here in Texas.
Yeah.
Again, not sure on that, but you know, it feels safer here. I could tell you that much. I think many of the people in that article would probably tell you they feel safer here.
I think we're right on the head with that. All right. So California housing prices are dramatically higher compared to the rest of the United States.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I can receive phone calls through my my computer, so that's why. Okay. So we've got 8 of the 10 cities with the highest housing costs in America. We've got California. Well, these are all the cities, so comparatively. So we've got San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and I'm actually surprised. I thought San Diego would be right on par with San Francisco as far as cost.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're your $900,000 median home price. Me and you were realtors. I mean, could you imagine if we were selling $900,000 houses every single day? I mean, that's the median.
Yeah.
The median. We're in Texas. I don't even know what our median is. Well, Dallas is 400,000 here. I mean, so when you think about selling a house, if you were fortunate enough to own one in California, and you're fortunate to buy it, at a good time, the appreciation of the real estate in this thing to this point is perhaps unrealistic. But, maybe another bubble's coming and it's going to burst again and whatever. But when you think about selling your house for $900,000 something and coming to Texas and looking at what you could buy for well under that amount of money, then it's hard to. It certainly makes the decision making a bit easier if you can, obviously if you could deal with a number of other factors. But if you're just looking house and property, and you say, okay, I just sold my $1 million house, and that was my situation. Our house was over $1 million in California, and we came to Texas and we bought a house for $500,000. And while it's not square footage wise in that sense, as big necessarily, we have more land.
Love your neighborhood too. Yeah.
We have, we're very happy with what we got for that amount of money. Certainly prices, though, as you and I both know, have gone nuts as well in the last.
It's because, and I want to interject here, it's because of, and a lot of people are pissed off because they're like, it's because of those Californians relocating here to Texas. Yeah, that's part of the reason. But I would say that not all of them are from California. There are people that are relocating from other states. There was a big shuffle of people that were moving around 2021 to 2022. Not as many now. I think interest rates are holding a lot of people at bay right now, on, just wanting to spend money, wanting to move, whatever. But I mean, so many people are just, I'm so upset. And they're, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, well, it is what it is. It's because people from higher, income or higher, valued, property valued states are relocating here to Texas, and it's skewing and messing up with, our numbers, here locally. And when interest rates were super low, which in my opinion, I really don't think that they should have gone that low. I think they kind of over exaggerated that when the Fed messed with that, and feel like they're going to over exaggerate in on this other extreme end here. But that's
no question that they will.
Yeah.
That's a definite, thing. It's property. Listen,
but then what's the benefit? I mean, the benefit to us is that my home value has increased. And so if I want to sell my house, now I can make a lot of money, but it's putting those people that maybe don't want to sell their house and want to stay in those higher property values and stuff, equaling higher property taxes, where it's, I think, hurting the most. And that's why the Texas government just passed. They passed it in the Senate, and it's going to go to the House. But the largest tax cut benefit of our time has just been passed. You get a bigger homestead exemption chunk back, and also I think they're going to be lowering the school the amount of money that schools are able to tax you as well, I believe, or they're taking some of that money from the schools. I have to reread the article. But those two things should help with some of the relief that we've, been experiencing with those inflated prices over the last couple of years here with all those people relocating, not just Californians. But go ahead.
Yeah, listen, this problem happens. It's a good and a bad problem. It depends whose seat you're in when you're looking at this, right? I mean, for people that have lived in North Texas and people who've lived in our areas all their lives, and so there's both ways of looking at this, right? Here's the first way. wow, our house has gone up in so much value. We could sell it and, we can make a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right, so the next question though is where do we go?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you willing to leave North Texas, this area, or move out more rural? Were you willing to go to Oklahoma? Or are you willing to go to Arkansas? Because
Mhm.
maybe what you cashed out of on what you made here, taking it to a place like that, in a similar way, going from California to Texas, if you went from Texas where your value of your house just got so increased and you're able and willing to move out of state to a place maybe like Oklahoma or Arkansas, place like that, perhaps you could bring, take that money, buy something for significantly less, and pack away a lot of money and do it. But here's the next time. I mean, every year our taxes are getting assessed here, proactively by each government, county agency.
Yeah.
And you live here, and all of a sudden somebody's lived in a house in generations and generations, and every year this house has gone, it was a $30,000, $40,000 house is now $300,000, $400,000, and you're getting taxed on that.
Yeah.
Are people getting driven out from that? And then is it easy to, or can't afford to live in the house no more? And then a guy shows up from California and, I'm one of them too, right? You show
Yeah.
up here with a
Yeah.
pocket full of money,
Yeah.
ready to buy anything and everything that they can.
Mhm.
Is it good? Is it bad? It's both,
It's
really,
both.
depending
Yeah.
on whose seat you're in, where you're at. Look at my house. I moved here 3 years ago. If I was the Steve of 20 years ago, I'd be looking to flip and to sell and to make money and figure out how to do it. But where do you go? Where do
Yeah.
you go now? You found your place to come, and now you bought the house, and it's, yeah, great. Our house is now worth all this money. Is it good? It's not really great, because every year Collin County and Grayson County keeps reassessing the house
Yeah.
at its new value. And now you're in a position where you have to go, you can't even argue it, because the houses are truly selling at those values that they're assessing them at. I mean, I went through the process. I felt it was important to learn the process of going in and debating and trying to fight my
Cut your taxes.
my
Yeah.
home taxes. And I'm thankful that the government has passed this relief. But this is a problem that, listen, it happened in California too. I mean, people came into California, people lived in the what's the term? Is it gentrification? Is that the
Yeah.
term?
Yeah. That's the term. Yeah.
Right. And, there's neighborhoods. Let's take it away from a state thing. Let's put it into a community thing. A lot of communities in Southern California that were, minority and, on the lower income scale communities have been revived. New money came into them. Well,
Mhm.
the new money came in, people got bought out, they moved out, they've been, I guess maybe pushed out. They've been not forced out, but they're
'Cause
they're
they're
gone.
gone. Yeah.
The neighborhood changed it,
Neighborhood change.
and
Yep.
things. Is it good? Is it bad? Yeah, I think there's an argument both ways to it, but the truth is that's what's happened here
Yeah.
to a lot of people. So I understand a lot of people from Texas who were born and raised here who don't like what they're seeing. They don't want
Yeah.
it. The traffic,
Yeah.
probably increased, crimes, of course, and increased, traffic and increased cost and increased all the taxes and all this stuff is not a great thing that you like to see, for somebody who's been in here, but if somebody's been here for a long time. So I get it. It's a really, really tough. That's a really tough discussion to have, depending whose seat you're in. But I understand both sides of it. I've seen both sides of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, the hard part of, I think those people that are older, but I think the other thing to consider is, yes, they may be older when they're living in those homes and the values went up, but hopefully, I mean, it didn't affect them too much because, I mean, so if you think about it, if someone that's lived in a house for 20, 30 plus years, and they're 65 or older, they're going to get the tax benefit for being 65 or older. So their property taxes are at least half of what you and I are paying. So that's something that they have to kind of take into consideration. But the other thing too is, if was their house really paid off or not? So in some cases maybe yes, in some cases maybe not. So and then in other instances, maybe the house, a spouse has passed away and just, they just can't live there anymore because there's too many memories, too many, things.
Yeah,
I know that.
The other thing is, Rebecca, I mean, listen, all this growth to North Texas brought new hospitals, supermarkets, Costco's. I think it's arguable to say that for many people's lives that have improved because of, you don't maybe have to drive an hour to go to a Baylor Scott anymore when you have a beautiful facility right there. Princeton, a city like Princeton, look at the booming and the growth that's going on in Princeton. I imagine if you lived in Princeton 10, 15 years ago, you were dependent on McKinney, you were dependent on Frisco, you were dependent on, Plano probably too for anything that is. Look at the city's grown, and I mean, you have restaurants and food and nightlife and other things in some areas that haven't been there before. Again, I can understand how some people are like, I don't want it, I don't need it. Californians go home. It's not all just Californians doing it, and it's not all Californians who are just moving here to bring a California lifestyle, but that is the other part of it too. And I do understand for people who've been here, who've lived in North Texas upbringing and lifestyle for all these years, to be very concerned about what kind of people, what kind of politics, what kind of thoughts, what kind of morals, what kind of religious upbringing, what kind of a lot of things I think have got to be in the back of people's minds. As friendly as people here are, and I will say that I've met majority friendly people. I mean, I get questioned all the time. Oh, you're from California? Yeah, I came from California, but I didn't come here because somebody told me to come. I came here on my own. I came here because my wife and I decided, and my son as a family, that this is where we needed to be because this place fit our way of thinking, our lifestyle, the type of life we wanted to live, the thoughts and things we believed in, and the way people live their lives here more matched the way we looked at things than it did in California. But there's an argument to say that all these other people, is Elon Musk coming to Texas? It may be a great thing, but are all the people he's bringing from the Bay Area, some of those people who work for his company, some of those people that believe the internal combustion engine is the most evil thing on planet Earth, that electric cars are those people really the people who wanted to come to Texas, or did they come to Texas because they have no choice and that's their job and Elon Musk's paying them enough to come to Texas? And are those the people that you should be concerned about maybe changing things here that you didn't like or don't respect? Listen, I speak Japanese fluently. I lived in Japan. I go over there. I go to Japan to try to change Japan. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. I came to Texas. When in Texas, do as the Texans do. Okay. And I'm not trying to change Texas. I want to absorb it and be a Texan. And if more people came and kind of looked at it that way, and everybody's got different opinions. What's a Texan? I don't think it's easy to define that. We all have different ways and, of doing things. But if you came here expecting to do things California style, or the way it's done there, and you can't accept the fact that things here are done differently, then maybe you didn't come with the right mindset to the state or any state. If you go to California and expect, wow, hey, we do, I carry a gun on both hips and I walk around and if you pull Texas and California, somebody's going to, slap you in the face there too. That's not how it's done there. So, you got to be a little accepting of our culture here and how things are. And if more people were like that, but the majority of people I met, I will say, Rebecca, came here because they wanted to come here, because they wanted a better lifestyle for their family and for their friends, because they share, let's not even say political, but let's say moral, let's say on an ethical level, okay? With people here and how they think. And that way, we're not that different. We're from different places, and we've seen different things and experienced a lot of different stuff. But in that sense, I think a lot of us are very similar people. Certainly my neighbors are where I live, and we all look different. I can tell you that much. None of us look the same. Our skin colors are very different, but maybe politically we're completely different too. We don't discuss it, but I know when, I go away, that my neighbor next door, if something went down at my house, he's coming out, guns blazing. He's coming out ready to protect my property. And I would do the same for him.
I love it. Yeah.
Hype, but I mean, he's a former military guy. He's a guy I only met 2.5 years ago, and he wrote me something the other day. He says, "Man, you're the best neighbor I've ever had in my entire life." And I said, "Wow, thank you, man. I appreciate it." And I know he had doubts about me when I moved here. I know he did. Is this guy? What does he think? What is he like? California. I mean, I get it. But there's a lot of good people in California who just cannot put up with a lot of erroneous stuff similar to what you were reading on that ABC 7 piece from San Francisco. And it's nice to see. I think overall they reported that fairly openly and honestly. The crime stats I'd like to dig into a little bit, but I think they got a lot of things right in that article. So sorry to go on.
That's okay. I wanted to kind of, since we are, it's already 7:12. Can you believe it? We're almost like to the hour point in our thing. So I kind of want to get to some of those juicy comments. I don't know the best way to share this because it's so hard to kind of read some of these, but we're going to try our best over here. Okay. So I'm going to add this to the stream. It's super duper hard to read. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on this end and just kind of see.
Okay.
Okay. Does that seem a little bit better?
I can read it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So we've got Cindy Johnson. She she commented on our last video, and she says about allergies, because we did talk about allergies the last time. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I had horrible asthma and hay fever. Nothing helped. I married a military man, moved to Denver with air pollution so bad. I not only had severe allergies, I broke out into a rash the entire time I was there. Then I moved to Albuquerque. Asthma was so bad because of the dry desert environment. She had to take steroids for half the year. Then she moved to South Central Texas 28 years ago. My allergies and asthma have greatly improved. The humidity bathes my lungs and nasal passages. Texas is my forever home. So she had a good allergy experience. I love the people, love the patriotism, and love for country. There are, I can't even say it. Antihistamine, sorry, and allergy shots in Texas. About diversity in Texas, I went to college in my 40s. I attended University of Texas in Austin, graduated 2009 with a doctorate. That school is one of the most diverse in the country. And she was talking about Brett, who was the writer of the last article. I guess Brett never bothered to go downtown to 6th Street to see the, I guess, to look at downtown Austin. Another difference from California, people have conversations about family, kids, politics. They don't base their conversations about how much money they spend on their cars, houses, and vacations. That was the main focus of California discussions, is what she said. She said, I'm glad Brett decided to move back to California. He could never assimilate. And just kind of what we've been kind of focusing on today. If you want to move to Texas, you have to wholeheartedly become a Texan. Remember, Texas is a whole other country. It's like immigration. It's like immigration when you come here. You either embrace it or you don't. If you don't get out, if you don't get out, we don't want to change it. Oh, if you don't get out, we don't want to change it. The United States has so many places for people to choose where they fit best. Don't move to a red state hoping to turn it blue. And that was kind of the end of her comment. I thought it was really good. Is it true that, I mean, when you lived in California, what were kind of some of the conversations and things that you guys talked about? Was it, is she kind of spot on with that?
I think you were a little more careful to speak about some things in California, especially if you weren't of, maybe a particular mindset. I mean, you didn't say things. I mean, during the pandemic, there were things maybe I wanted to say or other people wanted to say, and I don't think you said it unless you wanted to become the target of, maybe a lot of people's different opinion. I found here it's easy to talk to different people. You don't always have to agree. People have different opinions about stuff. Again, I think Cindy's comments go perfectly with what I said. You're coming to Texas, don't try to change Texas. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
If you go to Arkansas, don't try to change Arkansas. It's the way it is. If you go to California, embrace for what it is. If that's where you're going to, because that's what it is. You're not going to change it. That's what it is. So go there. I mean, it goes back to that simple proverb. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Okay. When in Texas, do as Texas be open, be nice to people. You know what? I told you, I think last time, Rebecca, I moved after living in California, in New Jersey, and several Californian neighborhoods, and Wisconsin, every place else. The most integrated racially neighborhood that I've ever lived in is right here in McKinney, Texas. 4 of my 5 neighbors are Black. I have never lived in a neighborhood where I have had that much integration in one neighborhood of people of different colors and different races. It's generally been most places predominantly white. Here I can tell you, I mean, again, around me, there's and beautiful families and people who go to church and people who are respectful and people who are raising beautiful kids, and and I'm good with every bit of it. And if that's what I thought things are really supposed to be like. And it really, even for my wife and for me, and it's something we've never really experienced before, to have such a interesting group of diverse neighbors and people in different things with their own diverse cultures. Barbecue, man, wow. The barbecue culture that
oh my
is,
gosh.
and then within the barbecue culture, I noticed like the Black families really that live here have they've been doing it for long. They have trailers, shows, and events, and I say, I want to come along, take me with you. I'd love to do, and it's so fantastic if you're open-minded to experiencing all of that stuff. It's really great. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have much to share with the people here from my being around the world, but I share Japanese culture with people here. And I must tell you, everybody is so open to trying stuff that they've never tried before. So I really hate, I've met Californians who've come to Texas before and they say, don't you hate? Everybody's so closed-minded. They're so narrow-minded and focused. No, honestly, if you ask me, I think a lot of people in California are narrow-minded and closed-eyed and focused. I think people here are wide-eyed and open and interested in everything. And are there bad people here and bad, is there people with bad intentions, and are there people who don't look at things that way here? Yeah, absolutely. But I've met a lot of people who are completely open to trying and experiencing all kinds of different stuff here. And so Cindy, great comment. I agree. Thank God that guy went back to Cali. I didn't like him much either in the article. And allergies. My son grew up in California in a very dry environment, had nose bleeding, had a lot of nose bleeding growing up, dry nose, no asthma, thank goodness, and some of these other things, nose bleeding, unstoppable, and allergies too. He's a lot of flow maze all the time growing up, and I don't know if it's the humidity. I can't say I like the humidity. It's disgusting outside. It's horrible here in the summertime, but this is a trade-off. Every place has a trade-off. Earthquakes and wildfires, tornadoes and hailstorms, and humidity. We're going to trade off for different stuff. Everybody's got to make that judgment what's best for them. But my son doesn't know. I'll also tell you that the water here, Rebecca, is much more mineralized and softer than it. That's another expense, because in California you almost have to have soft water accommodations put on your house. Culligan and Rainwater, or these other companies you contract with, it's $100-something a month. I haven't found the need here to do that. I don't get scaly stuff on our walls, and the water seems much softer and mineralized than it is
and that kind of varies
California.
per area.
So I think
my water is a little bit harder than yours. The water hardness kind of varies.
Here in the country, we don't have that.
Yeah. So move out into the country and it'll solve all your problems.
You're welcome anytime. I got a lot next door. I'll sell it to you at a good price.
Right. Yeah. Let's look at this other comment really quick. So this is a little bit more spicy. So we've got, they said, I don't know, this is hit the Mac one. You conveniently skipped over the real list, like water, property taxes, energy being much more expensive in Texas. Sales tax also far higher in Texas. You also skipped over some of the more specific examples. Texas is a monoculture compared to California, especially when it comes to racial diversity and diversity of culture. That last line, I think that he's completely wrong. I'm not sure where he's getting his information or what part of Texas he was visiting, but it's definitely not a monoculture here. I mean, you just explained that beautifully. Then go ahead.
I think that's an old stereotype. Yeah, that's a very old stereotype. I think it's certainly a stereotype if you're not from Texas, or maybe you live in a part of Texas and you don't. I mean, maybe there's communities that I don't agree with that, but. Okay, let's talk about the real list, like water.
Yeah.
My water bill is a fraction of what I paid for water in Southern California. Property taxes, yes, they're higher, absolutely. But Mr. Hatamak, let's talk about corporate taxes, personal taxes, and since you want to bring up sales taxes, energy. I think energy costs have gone up overall, but when I came to Texas, in California, well, let's just talk about today.
Yeah.
In Texas, a gallon of gas, a regular, is under $3 still, 2.80, 2.90, somewhere in there, maybe around $3
Right around
currently. In California, I was there last week or 2 weeks ago. It was over $6 a gallon. It is double what it is. Okay, so property taxes may be higher here, sir, but or ma'am, but with all due respect, energy costs are much lower. Our water bill, our energy bill, all of that have dropped significantly. And sales tax, sir, 10% in Los Angeles. Okay, it's 6.5% here in Texas.
It's 8.25.
Texas government has set up different things with car taxes and other stuff that.
Okay.
What is it?
I said the sales tax is right around 8.25 ish.
In what count? In what? Where?
I think it's all of Texas. That's one. I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's.
I don't know the current number. I thought it was 6 point something percent, at least on some purchases or something.
I think they mention it in the article. Let me go find it while you keep talking.
I just want to say that even if it is, it's much higher in California in sales taxes. It's much higher in individual income taxes, in corporate taxes, in gasoline taxes, and everything. So there's no comparison. And energy. We have electric here. We have propane here on our house. We found the energy cost to be extremely reasonable here in comparison to that. So, and also monoculture compared to California, especially racial diversity. I just got done talking about my point on that. I'm in McKinney, Texas, I would call the most diverse community that I've ever lived in. So sorry, I don't agree with your comments on the video.
Okay, you're right. 6.25, depending on local municipality. Okay, let me try this again.
Municipalities.
Okay, that's just too much for me. Let me. Municipalities. Okay, so let me present. Let's see. Present. This would be a lot smoother. Here we go. Okay, so it's 6.25.
I'm sure it's 6 point something percent.
For the state. So the state sales tax, maybe that's what he's talking about, is 6.25%. Depending on local municipalities, the total tax rate can be as high as 8.25, which I've seen that. Yeah. I think that's in metro areas. And then, so like if you go to groceries.
The point is, his point is this, perhaps in California, there's places with lower than. I don't think there's any places lower than 6.25% sales tax in California. I could certainly tell you that San Francisco, Los Angeles, and any of those areas are way higher than 6.25%, and they're higher than 8.25%. Okay, because Los Angeles is probably 10%, 9.75 to 10%. So sorry.
No, you're okay. I think the other thing to point out, though, is that, yes, property taxes are probably double what they are in California. But the other thing to consider is like home values are double in California than what they are here. So to me, it probably balances out like what you can purchase in California, like your monthly payment in California for a $400,000 house here in Texas versus a $400,000 house in Texas. You can't compare it that way because it's just a manipulation of the numbers. Yes, you've got high values and low taxes for property taxes if you want to just kind of compare those two things. But in Texas, you have lower home values, but you have higher taxes in that way. And you're also not being double taxed or triple taxed.
Good point. A really good point. And just wait till California starts assessing houses the way Texas does. Just wait till that starts there, and every year, that point's going to come because the state can't get money. Where else is money coming from for the state of California? At some point, it's going to start coming from reassessments of houses that were bought years and years ago that have been stuck at whatever value they've been at, and people are going to get reassessed or going to exit taxed or sales taxed on the sale. It's going to change. Yeah. They're certainly going to go after that money at some point too.
Yeah.
No question.
Oh, I thought I wasn't sharing this one. Hang on. Let me. had it set. Here we go. All right. Here's another spicy one. Lupe. She was on a roll in our comments. She said the property taxes are sky high in Texas. Virtually all land is privatized and doesn't have the same energy and openness either that California has. In Northern Cali, I could go into any river and just park on the side of the road. Good luck doing that in Texas. It's all fences and private land, some with playgrounds that are more and more only placed in communities. All the private roads you can pay for, and the extremely ugly beaches you have to drive a lot to get to. There is a reason people skipped this state back then and moved to California. Now they are desperate due to the housing and decide to put up with it. But Texans think they moved there because of the politics and not the cheaper homes. Because the people you live around, freedom is all about guns and waving flags and guns and waving flags from pickup trucks.
Well,
it's very loaded.
Lupe obviously is not enjoying her time in Texas.
No.
Northern California is a beautiful place. I mean, wine country. Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
ocean, Sur, Carmel. I mean, way up in Northern California, it's the most gorgeous place that you can argue it's the most beautiful place. And I can't argue that Texas has more beautiful places than something like that there. That is true.
Absolutely.
And private land, well, and yes, California has a lot of public land. Texas has a lot of private land and not a lot of public land. That is a big difference.
Yeah.
That is a way of thinking, a way of, a whole foundational difference. And if you don't like that, I can see how that could be something that Lupe is not down with for sure. I don't agree with Lupe's, listen, California has driven people out of California. Why would you leave such a beautiful place if there wasn't a reason to leave the beautiful place? It's not that Texas showed up and said, hey, come to Texas, come to the land of no mountains, no hills, no ski slopes, no ocean, no nothing. Come here. We have tons of appeal for, because there's no reason or incentive for people to leave California. California has driven people out on its own. Why would you leave paradise?
Yeah.
If you didn't have to leave paradise, you wouldn't leave paradise. But if you're driven out of paradise, you're willing to accept some things that paradise didn't have for someplace else. And you know what? I mean, maybe the new paradise is not beautiful mountains and oceans if they cost you that much to enjoy them. You know what I say? We have a country where we can travel freely. You live in a place like Texas. You love California. Vacation. Go there for a week and come back. Come back to reality again. But for somebody like Lupe, it doesn't sound like Texas is great. Hopefully she can afford that California lifestyle and all that California diversity that she claims doesn't have in Texas, because I don't agree. And there's a hell of a lot of pickup trucks here. It's awesome. But there's a hell of a lot of electric cars. There's a hell of a lot of all kinds of different stuff here in Texas. So don't just,
take your blinders off.
Quote as Texas is this way. I'm not saying California is all one way. Take the blinders off, because I think people here are a lot more open to things than Lupe is willing to admit or give people here credit for.
Yeah, I think, and she very stereotypical with the last part, because the people you live around, freedom is all about guns and waving flags and pickup trucks. Yeah, it's not all about that. And just coming from someone that's been born and raised, lived here my entire life, I mean, I've seen people carry guns and it doesn't, bother me or, that type of thing, but they're not waving them around like it's, they're not shooting them off on the 4th of July. I mean, it's not happening, it's a very stereotypical.
Maybe it's, people love their country, people love their state, people love their God, people love their neighbors, people love their community. And you know what? Some guys have pickup trucks. Yes. Some guys wave flags. Yes. I have a flag outside my house, Lupe, and I will put it pride. So does the guy next door to me. So does the guy across the street from me. And they're proud Americans and they're proud Texans. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, whatsoever. That doesn't make them bad people.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's not just a bunch of hillbilly white boys that are doing that. Okay. It's a whole diverse group of people, and everybody seems to get along just fine. around me in this area where I moved to. And so, Lupe, again, I would open up your way of looking at things a little bit different. But California, if it's a beautiful place and you can afford to be there, go. It is paradise. I agree. The beaches you can enjoy.
Yeah, and the private road stuff, I mean, there are lots of tolls. I will agree with her on that point, that can get really expensive. But if you get a toll tag, it's half the price of what you would pay regularly anyway. It's just a part of, it's just another expense of living here. And it's not everywhere. And you can, on your phone, on these smartphones that we have, you are able to, choose a route that avoids tolls and avoids that extra cost. So if you don't want to pay that extra $5 to get there 5 minutes early, don't pay the extra $5. Take the little bit longer route. So it's just kind of the way it is with some of the, I guess, the metro areas. You're not going to see toll roads on, like over in Seagoville or or some other. You're not going to see them up in Sherman, right? They're not up there. They're more in the metro areas, Houston, Dallas. I'm sure Austin has some toll roads too. So,
by the way, LA has toll roads. Orange County has toll roads.
There you go.
There are toll roads. They're not all toll roads, but there are toll roads. And guess what? Think how much you're paying for gas, Lupe, per gallon there, and how much of that money of the gasoline tax is going toward the freeways that you drive on that are not free, and the roads are crap, and they're accidents every day, and there's major traffic jams and everything else. Here in Texas, you have an option of free roads and you have toll roads. And if you can't afford to go on a toll road, you have the free road options. Traffic I'm sure, has gotten worse here in the last couple of years, but I could tell you in relation to LA, at least where I am in McKinney and where I commute, there's traffic sometimes, and it's frustrating, but it is nothing like driving on the 405 or the 101 in Los Angeles. It is nothing even close. And every time you go to the gas station, and you're looking at $2 and some odd cent per gallon gas as opposed to $6 or $5 something gas, maybe some of those toll roads, you could look at how you could take some of that savings and put it toward getting on a beautiful, smooth running toll road like Sam Rayburn. George Bush, like some of these other ones that are here.
They do maintain our roads well here. I will say that. Not in some of the more,
except out in the country,
more rural areas, it's a little bit rougher. That's for sure.
These roads are horrible out here, especially if you're in the cars like I am. They are not very good here in the country. I will tell you that much.
But the last point that I want to make about this comment is, the public land, the ability to go, to a national park in a 10-minute or 15-minute drive. I mean, that's just not possible here. I mean, you're probably looking at close to an hour, 2 hours to get to. There are national parks here. It's just so much more spread out. Would you agree that it's just so much more spread out? It's not as concentrated people on top of each other.
There's lakes all over.
Yeah.
But what about all these lakes and all these places? There's people with lakes. There's lakes everywhere. It's not the ocean, and it's not the mountains, and you can't go skiing and surfing in the same day. That's just the reality of the geographical nature of where we live. But you know what? Do you like water? There's beautiful lake. There's a lake 10 minutes this way. There's a lake 30 minutes that way. There's boats. There's jet skis. There's all kinds of stuff. If you're in the car driving and circuit racing and track racing and drifting and whatever, you have everything here. You don't have an ocean like California. You just don't. If that's a big thing for you, I don't advise that you move to Texas, because you probably won't like it if you love the ocean. I burn like a lobster. I don't go to the ocean. I really don't care. It wasn't a trade-off for me. But for other people, I can understand why having the ocean, because they're into surfing and swimming in the ocean, something that they love. Then you will not like Texas. If that's something you highly value, you will not like it here. If you like mountain roads like Mulholland, I do too, as a driver of many cars. Those are beautiful roads. But guess what? If I can't drive my car in it because I can't register it, because the cops are always pulling me over and giving me tickets for this and that and everything else. If you're into cars and you're into classic cars and you're into not paying the registration, do you know how many hundreds and hundreds of dollars per year, thousands of dollars per year I save on registration fees by living in Texas?
Tell me about it. I want to know.
I would say, well, I own 17 cars. Okay. I would say on average, because some of the cars are very high-end exotic cars and other classic cars that are whatever, that I would say on average, I save $4,000 or $5,000 a year on registration costs of vehicles. And if I throw gasoline in, I probably save $10,000 a year on how much gasoline that I go through. And I pump oh, by the way, too, in Texas, if you're in the cars, you get 93 octane. You don't get that in California because you only get 91 because of whatever, standards and stuff there are. 91 doesn't power a high compression, high horsepower vehicle like a lot of people in the cars have here. So guess what? You get that here, 93 octane.
I'm gonna rent a car from you, Steve.
Half the price of that. Well, as a car guy, anybody who's a car guy listening to this will understand. And plus, register your car. It doesn't matter if it's a truck. It doesn't matter if it's a Lamborghini. It's $75 a year. And on classic cars, you can register them for 5 years for under $50. You can't do that out there in California. Yeah. And pretty soon you won't even be able to register the cars. And it's just a nightmare. So if you're a car guy like me,
go see Steve's channel if you're a car person.
And a lot of car guys are moving here.
We're going to
end realtor too. I'm a car person and a realtor.
Yeah.
And I help people who are car people to move to Texas.
Yep. And so tell them about your channel, Steve. Where can they find you? Because I want to end on that, because you've been an amazing guest sharing all of your experiences and your insights too.
Thank you for inviting me, Rebecca. I had a great time doing it last time. I had a terrific time again doing it this time. I really love you. You've been so nice to me. Rebecca, by the way, too, when I got here to Texas and I needed a realtor to work with, to help me with things, she was the one there for me. She's awesome. She knows the local landscape a lot better than I do. But I do bring an interesting perspective now as a new Texan, somebody who moved from California and did the things. So my clients are generally people in the car community, people who watch my channel. Steve's POV, Steve's Point of View is the name of my channel. I do a lot of the videos in Japanese. I speak Japanese fluently, but every title has English subtitles. And I do car entertainment and culture entertainment. And I talk a lot about Texas and how proud and happy I am to move here. This is actually some of my original merchandise. If you haven't noticed, it's right there.
Nice.
That is the Texas flag.
Can they get that on your channel?
Inside of it. We're proud. We're happy. We love it here. We have embraced being Texans, my son, my wife. And we're really, really happy with the move that we made. No misunderstandings or mistakes about that whatsoever. So check out Steve's POV. And I'm Steve Feldman. I'm a realtor with a different agency than Rebecca now, but I stand ready to help you, or as Rebecca too. She is great. I've had great dealings together with her. She's my go-to for anything local here, real estate.
Well, thank you, Steve. We're going to, in the description below, guys, we are going to have information about Steve's channel if you want to connect with him. And all of my contact information will be in the description of this video if you need me or you have any questions. Be sure to comment below some of your thoughts, and maybe your comment will be featured on the next time we go live, because we're going to be, we can hash it out. We can dish it out. We can take it too. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thumbs up.